home.
Well, as I was talking to Colleen, I've been back at the office for 2.5 months. So getting back to working in my own home, I'm like, wait a sec, I got a light behind me. That wasn't there in the past. Let's do this. I need one of those big oval lights in front of me.
Yeah. No, we've been back in the office for a couple months too.
All good.
6:01. You guys want to get started?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being Ben. Thanks for being here. Let me just say before we get started, in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, this meeting is not open to the public. We will be streaming the meeting on Facebook Live starting at 6 p.m. on the Town of Pauling Facebook page. You can also hear the meeting via podcast afterwards. Clerk, could you please read the roll call?
Supervisor Schmidt,
Present.
Councilman Johnson,
Here.
Councilman McCarthy,
Here.
Councilwoman Snow,
Here.
and Councilman DeRosa. I don't see him yet.
Sure, he'll be dialing in shortly. Now, would you all please stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of
Of the
America.
United States of America.
and
To
to
the republic.
stands
Which it stands,
for God,
one
one
nation,
nation,
Nation.
under God,
indivisible,
and justice for all.
with justice for all.
Oof.
Thank you very much. We're going to open up with our public hearing for the intermunicipal sewer agreement. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Can I get a second?
Second,
Second, I'm in here now. Thank you.
Oh, excellent.
Sorry.
And we should do a roll call vote on that, correct? On opening the public hearing? We'll go around.
Yes.
Councilwoman Snow,
here,
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman
aye.
McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman DeRosa.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay. And Supervisor Schmidt, aye. The public hearing for the intermunicipal sewer agreement, sewer rates is now open. If anyone has any questions, please let the board know. I'm just gonna just check in. Okay.
It looks like there's somebody,
Yeah, I see someone, I think Steve is popping up. Steve, you're on mute, Steve. I can see the mute sign on the corner of your screen.
me too, yeah.
If you're on mute, we could have you go first and all right, so while waiting for Steve, I see a Karen there as well. Karen, how are you? Can you hear us? I know we have, I think, 5 or 6 people in the waiting room. Can everyone in the waiting room hear us?
Yeah.
Anybody with any comments in regards to the intermunicipal sewer agreement?
Town board meeting. Oh,
Nancy, how would you, it's our first time doing a public hearing via Zoom, Nancy. Do you have any advice on how we should proceed with this?
If we can't get people to speak, I would suggest that we hold it over to the next meeting.
Okay.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Okay, Karen wrote that. Karen actually just wrote in that she doesn't want to comment. Okay. Maybe what we'll do, since we're seeming to have some difficulties, possibly, I can't tell if people are trying to speak or not in the waiting room. What we could do is keep the public hearing open until next week. If the board, is the board okay with that?
Yeah, we really have no choice. Maybe the next meeting will be back in the town hall, hopefully.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're getting closer every day.
Maybe, Mr. Supervisor, we can allow people to email in comments and concerns until our next meeting also.
Sure. Yeah, they can even write them in the comment section below when the meeting is live.
In the chat now, yeah.
Yeah, people can write their questions right into the chat if they'd like, as well. And then what we'll do is we'll keep this public hearing open, and we'll move on to another part of the agenda. So Nancy, do we have to?
Need a motion on that, I think.
So I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing open, and we can revisit it at the next town board meeting. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Second.
So all in favor, starting with Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman DeRosa,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. The public hearing will be held open until the next town board meeting, where we can have a better communication with the people that are trying to. I'm not sure if they wanted to talk or if they didn't realize it. So we'll get better at this, and we'll get everyone's comments at the next meeting. Moving right along, we have a discussion for the consolidation, reorganization of the town and village governments. As everybody knows, and most of the community has been really involved, and I know myself and a lot of the board members have been reaching out to the community. We have community reaching out to us. There was a petition circulated by some residents, and there's a lot of questions out there. And we're lucky to have Ben Snide here from Laberge Group. Ben works with our grant company, and we're fortunate enough to have a grant company who works in the consolidations, town-village mergers, and has a lot of experience in this, and even teaches classes at the Associations of Towns classes in regards to this. So Ben, thanks for being here. The floor is yours. We're all looking for some real clarification. I know we've gotten a lot of the social media that's been going on. We sent it to you guys. You can see what's being said, and we have people that they just want to have they need some real answers. They need to hear it, from the experts, and you're the expert, so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Supervisor. I think I shared with you guys an article and a presentation that we gave at the Association of Towns a few years back called "The Bumps, Bruises, and Pitfalls of Village Dissolution." And we're currently working on a sequel to that, since this is not an easy road to go. What I recommend, by the way, is within the next couple of weeks, having a public meeting. And hopefully we can do it in person. If not, we'll do it on Zoom, so that we can answer any and all questions that everyone in the public has regarding the process. But I want to share a few things, and then I'll answer any questions you have. I'm going to I had it earlier here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have the people's names up, so let me go the other way. Let's go up here to where I had it in yellow before. Oh, I went too far down.
That's okay. There you go.
Well, okay, here we go. So what you were served with was a petition. And I want to read this because it's important that we read this. It says, "We, the undersigned, electors and legal voters of the town of Pauling, New York, qualified to vote at the next general or special election, respectfully petition that there be submitted to the electors and legal voters of the town of Pauling and the village of Pauling for their approval or rejection at a referendum held for that purpose, a proposal to consolidate the town of Pauling with the village of Pauling." And the reason why I read that to you is that often this occurs where there's a situation where people believe that they are petitioning to do a study, that they're petitioning to go for a grant, that they're petitioning to get you to talk. They submitted a petition under Article 17A of the General Municipal Law to hold a referendum to effectively consolidate the village and town. It's not a referendum to do a study, and it's not a referendum to write a grant. Often this occurs, and we're dealing with this in the village of Spencer, New York, in Tioga County right now, where people circulated a petition, they go door to door, and they say, "Hey, wouldn't it be a good idea to study this?" Sure, sign your name to it. "Hey, wouldn't it be a good idea to have them do a plan?" Sure. And then all of a sudden they realize that they signed a petition to hold a vote to dissolve their village. And they were in an uproar. The same situation has happened here, where I'm hearing anecdotally, and I'm reading things online, and you know what they say about what you read online. But you read the social media and you read the newspaper articles, and it appears that people have signed a petition thinking that they were going to ask you to do a grant, or thinking they were going to ask you to do a study. In effect, they're forcing your hand by doing this petition to have a vote. So let's go backwards and then forwards for a few seconds. First off, in New York State, there are two ways to initiate the process. One is a board-initiated process, whereby you as a town board or a village or both pass resolution to initiate the process. You apply for a grant to do the study. You take your time in a year. You do a study on both on the reorganization of government. You review sharing services, dissolving, consolidating, going coterminous, and you decide if this is a good thing or not. And you may decide to go out to vote, or you may just not go forward. That's a board-initiated process. Whereas you guys can do this with a lot of intent, a lot of research, and a good plan. The other way, starting in 2010, is the Citizen Reorganization and Empowerment Act, which allows there to be a citizen-initiated process, which is a petition. When that happens, you are locked into a very, very, very tight time frame. And I want to show you that time frame, if you don't mind. And I want to thank Jess for giving me the ability to do this. So can you all see this little timeline in front of me?
Yes.
Yes.
It says voter initiated. So in a voter initiated process, the petition is filed. That petition has to have no less than 10% of your registered voters that were registered in the last general election of the village and the town. It was submitted to you, I believe, on or about July 31st. The town clerk and the village clerk then have to certify that petition within 10 days. These things are in state law. You then have 30 days to call a meeting from which to then call the public referendum. That referendum has to be within 60 to 90 days. So no less than 60 days from that date and no more than 90 days can you have that vote. That's all you are required to do under law, which is a problem because then people are voting with their heartstrings or their purse strings. They don't have the proper information. They don't know how their government can potentially be run. They don't know what's going to happen to the village. They don't know what kind of assets they have. There's no information, just, hey, I think it's a good idea. We have too much government. Or, hey, I think I'm going to save money. Or, hey, there's a grant out there for something. What does that mean? So there's no information. Our clients have done what you call an interim dissolution, or in this case, interim consolidation report within that time frame that allows you all to come up with what a potential new governance could look like and what would be the shift of the services and the shift of the cost and what could that tax result be to village taxpayers and town taxpayers. That also gives you some information on the citizen empowerment tax credit. And I did spend time today creating a whole presentation that I will share at the public meeting, so I can go to some of those slides for you. But before I go to that, I want to repeat, you are going to have a vote. That vote is going to be either it's going to say, shall the village and town of Pauling consolidate their government? If it's no, this process ends. And I'll go back to that screen again. If the vote is no, the referendum fails, there's a 4-year waiting period before consolidation can come back. However, I mentioned earlier there's two different things. There's one's called a dissolution and one is called a consolidation. So in a dissolution, only the village votes. They can vote to dissolve. They can do their state mandated study. They can leave the keys on the desk, turn off the lights and say, peace out, I'm done. It's your problem on this particular day. You have no say as a town. Town residents have no say in a vote. In a consolidation, both the village and the town votes. Both the village and the town helps create that plan. Both the village and the town boards have to adopt that plan. So you're kind of working together for that new governance. So now if the consolidation vote fails, has to pass both the village and the town. If it's only one, not the other, it's dead. The petitioners can come back and try for a dissolution. So let's just say it passed the village, not the town, that shows their support. They can go back and do the whole process over as a dissolution. If that fails, that's 4 more years of moratorium as well. So I want to go back then to that screen and to that timeline. So in the timeline, if you have the pass of the referendum, then you begin your consolidation plan as required by state law. You have 180 days to accept that plan. Then within 35 to 90 days, you have to have a public hearing. After that, you have 60 days to adopt that plan. That plan is your plan for consolidation. In that plan will be the date from which you decide the consolidation will occur. But it's not yet done yet. See this little area down here that I'm circulating?
Yes.
That is the permissive referendum. That is that second bite of the apple that people misconstrue all the time. Throughout the information I read on Facebook and the discussions, people are saying that you vote again in 2021. That is not necessarily true. There is no as of right second vote. You have the vote. The one vote is your referendum. That's the only thing that's guaranteed. If people don't like the plan, you need to get 2.5 times the amount of people to sign the petition to have another vote. If we recall earlier, I mentioned that there's a 10% threshold to start this process. 25% of the voters have to sign a petition to have that second vote. So there's the misinformation that I'm reading right now that says, A, the petition is to do a grant. No, the petition is to have the vote. B, it says that they can vote again in 2021. Not as a right. They have to go back out and get 25% of people to sign that petition to have another vote. If they do get that 25%, then you have to meet again. You have to schedule yet again another public referendum, which is the same process. So you meet again within 30 days, you have another referendum, and that'll determine whether or not you pass or fail and whether or not the reorganization occurs. So it's not as simple as what people have said. Oh, let's just go ahead and get the public to get the town board and village board to do a grant. And I want to talk about that grant for a second because we got caught with this in the village of Spencer. The answer is there is something called the Citizen Empowerment Reorganization Grant, Citizen Reorganization and Empowerment Grant, sorry, CREG. It is in the state budget. It is eligible the first Wednesday of each month for you to apply. However, it is not available right now. In December of 2019, Department of State took away or they canceled their contract with the Grants Gateway. At that time, they took away their electronic means of doing an application. And in January, February, March, they began developing a paper application to do this project, to do this grant opportunity. They never released it. COVID hit. It's still under review. There is no grant application today ready for you to submit, although the budget has the money. And when it does become available, everything backdatable to April 1st, the first $25,000 is reimbursable to you upon award. You would, if this was a normal year, if the application was available, the day you get hit with the petition, I call Department of State, I notify them that there's a petition, we begin the process of developing an application for expedited assistance. You will get that grant and go backwards to April 1st, 25,000, up to 25,000 from the state and 90% them, 10% you, and you move forward. Village of Spencer moved forward. They couldn't submit the application. They're still waiting because the application is not available. So the public that says there's a grant for that is only half right. There is a grant for that, but you can't apply for it right now. You will eventually be able to apply for it and go backwards to April 1st, but I cannot submit today.
In the meantime, we would have to put the money up before the grant.
If you wanted to move forward and do an interim report, yes, you'd have to put the money up. And then when the grant's available, apply and get retroactively paid back.
Right. Okay.
And what about the cost of a special election?
Well, that's all part of the process. So you only get up to 25,000. So that can be a combination of your special election fee. That can be a combination of the report fee. But that's a cost you have to bear because the people who submitted the petition did not get it in to you in July, earlier in July, middle of July. If they would have gotten to you in enough time, you would have been able to work with the County Board of Elections. I believe their cutoff was August 1st or August 2nd, whatever that Monday was, to get on their ballot. See, Board of Elections have a cutoff date per county for when they have to have information to print on the ballots so they can finalize their ballots for the absentee ballots and for the overseas ballots. It's not as simple as, hey, you have an election November 5th or whatever the day is this year, let's get it on there. This is a county-run election. So you would have had it to them earlier than later. If you would have been served 2 weeks earlier, Kathy and the village clerk could have certified it. You could have contacted the Board of Elections, and it would have been on that and would not have cost you any additional money. Now you have to have your own.
In your experience, in your experience, what's the total cost of a process like this, including a special election?
To do the study is normally 25 to 27-ish for the interim study, but yes. And then you have a situation though, because you have to discuss whether or not it's going to go coterminous or not. If it's simply a consolidation, 25 to 27.5 is the number. 25 gets reimbursed from the state, so 2,500 out of you. Village and town elections, I don't know how much they cost for you. Some towns it's about $3,500, but I'm not sure what it is. This is a cost to you. Anyone that says it's not is not understanding the process. Now, that being said, you can always do a cheaper study. You can always do less, but that's up to you how much information you want to give the public. From my perspective, the only thing you have to do is have the referendum, but that's not what our governments like to do because they want to give people information to vote on. That's why you do. That's why you have the grant program. That's why you have the process. And that's why you meet with the village, you meet with the public, and you go over, this is what a government could look like. There's another pitfall in the process, though, is that you cannot, in the state law, bind a future government. So even though you do an interim report to give people the information to vote on, and let's say they vote to consolidate, and then you go through the state process of developing and adopting a plan, there may be a court challenge later on as to whether or not you have to implement that exact plan because you cannot bind a future government. So in a village dissolution, the village comes up with a plan, the town is not required to do that. In a consolidation plan, that may end up in court someday.
Ben,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Colleen.
I'm sorry, Ben, you had touched on this already with Bill's question, but again, I think it's just important to be clear for, certainly our board and those that are watching tonight. Again, we've been told that if we couldn't get the ballots on the November 3rd, the election day ballot, it would be the village and or the town's, I'm going to use words that were said, fault that we were spending taxpayer money. So
Nope.
Just so we're clear, there is no way, as you said, that it can be on the ballot for the November 3rd election day election, correct?
No, you cannot get it on November 3rd. You're going to have to have a special election. The village has to have one, the town has to have one. In fact, I'm having the same issue of the ballot in Rensselaer County for a town that wants to create an ambulance district. They voted on August 6th. And Rensselaer County said it's too late to get put on the ballot. If I was the person circulating the petitions, I would have made sure that there was time to get on that election if I didn't want to cause any additional hardship on the taxpayers. It didn't work that way.
One question. For years, we've always heard in polling in the village that there's been other studies in the past. And I have asked the town clerk, Kathy, and she, with her office and Mike Cube, they found a study that was done in 1969 by the village board, and it had 8 factors they looked into and anything like that. Would any of this information be helpful? I know it's 50 years different, and I have heard that there was other studies done, a rumor. And I know the village was looking through their records, but this is the only one that we have. It was done May 8th, 1969, actually by the village board.
Well, we can look at it, but the reality is we have to work with a committee or work with you all to figure out what your new government could look like. And we have to use all of today's numbers. We have to look at your budget, their budgets. We have to look at the new budgets you're creating. We have to see where the cost shift would be. Are you keeping this service or not keeping this service? Is this service being transferred? What are your debts today? Your debts today are not the same as they were 50 years ago. We're going to have to look at the village's attorney and talk with them about any outstanding cases they have. What will be potential liabilities? We have to look at what the debt is for the water district, the sewer district. We have to make a decision whether or not there'd be a lighting district and a sidewalk district. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made today that may not have been there 50 years ago, but we would look at that plan to see if there's anything useful in it.
Yeah, I know. Well, just for one example, there was 8 factors they looked at, and one of the factors was the tax rates that we get reimbursed from by the state. And one of the conclusions in this study was that if we merge the town and the village, we would get lesser return in our rates from the state and the county than if they were both listed as individuals.
Well,
for some reason.
In the 60s and 70s, there was a tax incentive to go coterminous. I don't know if that's still the case today. When we do this analysis, we have to look at what aim you get, what aid municipalities the village gets, what the town gets, what chips you get, what chips monies you get. And the way it works in dissolution and consolidation is you will still get the same amount of chips that you combined have today. So you're not going to lose the village chips aid, and you're not going to lose the village estate aid. However, we are in COVID. The budget and the government, the state, $60 billion in debt. We don't have a buyout from the federal government yet. We're already talking about a reduction in state aim. I can't forecast what that aim reduction is going to be, but we have on our team a fiscal analyst who used to be the budget and the ways and means, in this case, the budget director for Albany County. He looks at all the numbers and he figures out based upon trends what it could be. COVID is that wild card. We don't know what they're going to do with state aid. We don't know what they're going to do with grants long term. The fiscal impact we have to look at in this is mortgage tax, sales tax, your property tax, your levies, and we have to look at the citizen empowerment tax credit. And I want to explain that to you for a second. You're going to hear a number of people talk about the CETC. If I raise their hands, has anyone heard that yet?
Yeah.
No? Oh, I'm going to say I'm going to go over it with you in a second. No one's even said yes. Good. That means that public hasn't understood this part yet. Let's go to the videotape. Let's go to my sheet here and go down to a different slide and see if I have that. Right there. So there's an incentive when two governments consolidate or the village dissolves. It's called the Citizen Empowerment Tax Credit. It is equal to 15% of the combined property tax levy at the time of consolidation. Of that, 70% must be used to reduce your tax levy. The other 30% can be used for tax reduction or for capital improvement projects in your budget. So based on your 2018 tax levies that I have from the Comptroller's Office, you are eligible for approximately $775,000 a year, forever. So that's a key, forever. The state law says in perpetuity, you will get every September 15% of the pre-consolidation tax levy. However, there's a little caveat in that says that it has to be reappropriated every year. So that means in the state budget process, they have to reappropriate that budget line to pay you every September. That's a big incentive. So in 2010, the program was both a carrot and a stick. The stick is we have 10,000 layers of government according to the press releases. That includes all kinds of districts and villages and towns and counties, ambulance districts, water districts, sewer districts. And then they gave you an opportunity to consolidate or dissolve those districts. And you'll get that 15% tax levy back every year in perpetuity. But as we can see this year, in perpetuity doesn't mean guaranteed. So when you do your interim report, you do your final report, you have to calculate what that tax impact will be before and after. More often than not, we've done a number of these plans, village taxes go down, town taxes go up. You know, not town taxes as your tax levy, your individual town taxes on your town tax bill often go up in a consolidation and a dissolution. The CETC tax credit mitigates that. So by taking 70% of that tax credit off the top, that lowers your levy. So you had a $3.9 million levy, it can be down to 3.2. If everything in the village went away, it's $750,000 off the top and people see their taxes go down. The challenge is this is a government, which means that there are projects, services, and facilities that the village has that you have to determine what to do with. Are you going to continue them? If they have a DPW, you have a highway department, am I merging them? Am I merging my facilities? Am I keeping all of my staff? Am I taking their DPW commissioner, making them my deputy superintendent, and keeping their staff and attriting out? All this has to get figured out. So you can have a number that you can go back to the taxpayers, both roughly in the interim report and very concretely in the full final report, and say, this is what your government's going to look like. It's not simply a turn off the lights and walk out situation.
And how long does that take to get that study completed?
Well, the overview, the interim report will be done by the time you have the vote. So if we were to begin next week or 2 weeks from now, we would have a public meeting where I have a 35 slide presentation that's behind my computer right now that I keep pointing back to, where I explain the entire process to the public and answer all these questions. And we begin meeting with the village and the town to develop this plan. The first thing we would do, obviously, is get the last 3 years of budgets in both the town and the village. We get a better understanding of how the village and town are governed. We then meet with a committee. We interview the department heads, understand how government has worked. We then work with the town leaders and the village leaders to come up with an outline of what a new government could look like. And we do the numbers so that people have an understanding. That's the interim report. We do that in enough time that we can have a PowerPoint, a public meeting, and a pamphlet put together so that people can read it before the election. And then we normally have a public meeting within 7 days, 10 days of the referendum, so the public can answer more questions. If the vote is yay, we are to consolidate, then you have 180 days to create the legally approved, set forth in Article 17A consolidation plan. That's where we look at every law and determine what has to get changed, what has to stay into effect for 2 years. We look at what the districts are going to be, how are you going to move forward with the water district and the sewer district, because you're going to have to create a new one. The village will be an area what I call the Prince district. The Prince used to be, he changed his name from Prince to the artist formerly known as the Prince. So that area is the area formerly known as the village. Those boundaries have to be formalized through a map plan and report for a water district and a sewer district. Now, you as a town and village may feel that's not fair for the whole entire town to pay for their lights. So you're going to want to create a lighting district. And you may determine that it's not fair for the entire town outside the village to pay for their sidewalks. So you may create a sidewalk district. There will be what we call a debtors district. It's not really a debtors district, but it's the boundary, because any debt taken on by that village will get paid back by them on their tax bill, only them. So if there happens to be any outstanding debts for vehicles, for equipment, for facilities, they pay it, not you as a town resident. There again, there's a major misconception statewide that if a village dissolves, everyone in the town has to pay that debt. That is absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. So what happens in these studies, you see where that shift is. So in the village of Spencer, there was a resident outside of the village who owned property in the village, and he decided to begin the process of dissolution. He did a petition on the same kind of pretenses as people here. He felt that there's too much government and I want to lower the cost. And by the way, sign a petition, do a study. Well, now they have to vote. But when they did their study, it turned out that if you dissolve the village taxes would go up 12% without the tax credit, 2.5% with 70%, and would only go down about 1.5% if you use every single dollar of that tax credit to reduce taxes. Conversely, town taxes would go down anywhere from 12 to 22%. The reasoning is the village of Spencer did not have a robust DPW. In fact, they don't have a DPW. They contract out their paving and their potholes. They contract out their mowing. They have the town do snow removal, winter maintenance. The town has a very involved DPW. So in that case, the village residents have to take on a larger share of a town-wide budget, and it's costing them more money. So their public meeting is going to be August 24th via Zoom. Their vote's going to be September 15th, the first day we're allowed to have elections in New York State again. So it's not clear. It's not every town being the same. It's not every village being the same and every process being the same. That's why the devil's in the details. But I want to impress upon you, you do not have to do an interim report. Our clients do because they believe that it's in the best interest of the communities. In this case, the village and town could do it together. You cut the cost in half.
There's not two grants, one 25,000 for the village and one 25,000 for the town, is there?
Not in there a consolidation, but there are implementation grants open to both of you. So let's talk about that for a second. In a consolidation dissolution, you're eligible for up to $50,000 at 90%, 10%. They fund it in two separate ways, 25 for the interim and 25 for the final. We've done this on every one of our plans. If you choose to consolidate and you go through the consolidation plan and there either is no additional referendum or there is a referendum and you move forward towards the reorganization, both the village and the town, and then they're eligible for an additional $50,000 each for implementation. And that covers not all, it covers most of the transition costs from the governments you have today to the government you'll have tomorrow. The closing down, the auctioning, the legalese, working with the attorneys, setting up the accounts, closing out the accounts. For example, if they were to consolidate and the village goes away, you'll have to be named signatories on all of their accounts. You have to then do all new paperwork for any old grants they have. You have to set up a new account from which all their bills go to, and you cash that out over 6 months. You have to change their laws. You'll have to redo your zoning because you have town zoning, they have village zoning. You have to re-update the town zoning to include the village or the area formerly known as the village. You can either just adopt it or do whatever you want with it. You know, we have some communities that are towns that did not have zoning. They had to create zoning only for that area, where it was basically rural agricultural everywhere outside of that boundary, and it kept the village's zoning in place. Then they had to create a zoning board for the first time. You're going to have to create a water district. That's map plan and report. You have to go through the process. Now, they don't have to have a new vote though. And we've gone through this with Department of State and the Comptroller's Office. They have held that if you do the dissolution plan and the interim plan, the public is in essence voting for that district in their vote for dissolution or consolidation.
For the plan.
To the plan. So you don't have to have another vote for water and sewer, because that's in the plan. You know, unless you're expanding that. Now, if you're expanding the district bigger than what the village boundary in the district is today, then you'd have to have another vote on the water and sewer district, just like you're forming a district. It's a little intricacy. It came up in a few of my clients that said, wait a second, can they actually vote not to have water, but I have water? What are we going to do with my debt? No, they don't have to do that again. You have water, you'll continue to have water.
Well, it's a lot of information. Excuse me, I'm sorry. There's a lot of information you're giving us. I know my head is spinning, and I think it's a good idea to myself to start the process. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Well, the process is already started essentially because of these petitions. I think what we're going to do, Ben, is we're going to get with the village trustees and mayor, you know, in the next few days, and we're going to set up a meeting for sometime at the end of August. I know there's a lot of people watching via Facebook right now, and there's a lot of questions. I know you've answered a bunch tonight. I thank you for coming in and bringing all your experience working with this. Like I said, Ben teaches these consolidation classes at the Association of Town training that we all go to, and every town in New York State goes to every year. And that's the first time I took it. I actually took it twice down there with you. Because it doesn't just cover consolidation. It talks about shared services and, you know, things that I'm a big fan of. And that's where I'd like to see us head more towards is shared services with the village, and not this plan that's been put out there. And unfortunately, it's been put out there was a lot of misinformation. And I feel bad because I know some other board members here have had some interaction with the community as well. And a lot of folks have reached out saying that they wish they hadn't signed the petition because, quite frankly, they signed it under false pretenses. So we're going to get something, and I think, Ben, we were talking today. The last week of August was probably going to be good for you. The 24th, yes. 26th, something like that. So we're going to.
The 26th that week is fine. The 24th, I'm giving the same presentation. Actually, not the same. I'm giving the actual results of the interim plan to Spencer. So the 24th is no good, but the 25th, 26th, 27th, they're all fine. If you have additional questions, I can go back to the PowerPoint that's behind here and answer any timeline questions or anything you have.
Well, I want to ask a couple of quick questions, then we'll run through the board and have a couple of quick questions for you as well, just so we can get this information out to everybody today. And like I said, we're gonna get this meeting set up, and it'll be a meeting that's gonna with the town and village together, and for all their residents from both entities. And it's going to be strictly just covering this topic. When we have this meeting at the end of August, we're not going to have anything else on the agenda. It's just going to be for this, because I know there's a lot of people with a lot of questions. So I just want to be clear about a few things, Ben. First, because of when these petitions were handed in to the town and village clerks, this will not be on the general election ballot, correct?
Correct.
The grant that people were told is that is going to pay for this entire study is not currently available right now.
Correct.
Okay, those are my two questions. I'll go around the board here. I'll call on everybody one at a time. I'll start with Colleen. Do you have any questions for Ben?
No, I think, Ben reiterated it, with the date. I think it was important to get the message out that this could in no way be on the ballot for election day, because that was the misinformation that was being sent. So, I have no further questions for Ben today.
Thank you, Colleen. Councilman Johnson.
No, I'm good. Is there a way we could get that presentation that you have for us to view? Because I would really like to study it and read it myself.
Sure. I can send it over. I can send you guys a link of it tomorrow. That's no problem. And it's basically it's 98% of what I would present. Say that again.
Okay. I said it was very informative. A lot of disturbing information as to how this went down. But I think my goal is to make sure that every citizen is well informed before they go to vote.
Right. That's what we're looking for here. And like I said, the community, obviously, however everybody votes is how they vote, and we're not telling anybody to vote one way or the other. We just want to make sure everybody has the proper information before they cast that vote. And Ben, I'm sorry, I had one more question, then I'm going to come back to Councilman McCarthy. Sure. Just to be clear, the petition that was circulated, and people were told that it is a petition to fund a study for this consolidation, when in fact the petition that was circulated was not for a study, it was for a consolidation, and that's what's going to be on the ballot, a consolidation vote now, not a study vote.
Correct. And if I go back to my screen, this is the petition. I want to try to move this down a little bit so that names aren't on here, but it's not working very well. I'm actually I'm not at the office. I'm doing this VNC there. So first off, the public does not get a say in the grant. They don't get to vote to go for a grant. The town and the village can vote to pass a resolution to apply for the grant, but the public doesn't get that. The vote, what they put forth on their petition, and they followed Article 17A, explicitly says that shall be submitted to the electors and legal voters of the town and village for their approval or rejection at a referendum held, a proposal to consolidate the town and the village. That's what they signed.
Yeah, it says it right on top, right? Petition to consolidate, it's right on top.
We'll go right back again. It's right out of the, so if you go online to the Department of State and download the reorganization guideline, it tells you what you have to put in your actual petition. And this is what it says. Okay, and it's right there. Now, there's no way for a person to get their name off of this without going to court and getting a judge to order an injunction and people to sue for the right to get their name off of the petition. They signed it. 810 people or something like that signed this petition. So you have to have a vote. This is not a petition. It does not say we, the undersigned legal electors of the town and village, hereby request that the town and village apply for a grant application. It doesn't say that we respectfully petition and request that you do a study. It specifically says hold a referendum for the purpose to review for a proposal to consolidate the town and village. So what you'll have on that ballot is one question. Shall the village and town of Paulding consolidate? That's the question. There's not a question of shall we do a study? It's not a question saying, hey, should we ask our elected officials to go for a grant? The petition expressly says that. And I feel bad for people that may not have understood that when they signed the petition, but they did.
Right.
Same issue happened in Spencer. This
And
is
by the
not
way,
new.
let me just say, Ben, I would be in huge favor of the study being done just so you can give the residents of the village and the town all the information. You know, because people love our village and people in the town love the town, and it's you know, why not put it out there and say, hey, this is where the potential savings are and not where savings are, and this is where you can be more efficient, and this is where you can share services. But this just wasn't the proper way to, you know, people were misled into thinking they were getting something they weren't.
So let's go over to my other slides here, because it's something that's very important. So if I can go down a slide or two. Let's see. Oh, I'm using my finger and I have a mouse. So much easier when you use the mouse. So I have two slides here that are important in the process, because you had mentioned that people like the village and people like the town. So village dissolution and town and village consolidation is a very personal decision. A lot of people identify themselves with the village or the town. So when they do this, they have to have a preliminary test for themselves before they go in the voting booth per se. Does this make sense with an S or sense with a C? They have to think about their government economically with efficiency and effectiveness. Will the proposed new consolidation be better for me financially? You know, will there be costs now? Will my costs go down? Will my costs go up? Will I save money? And if I'm saving money, are my services still as effective as before? Is there no difference in getting that service to me from the village or town? I have to understand that question, and it will be more efficient. These are all questions you have to answer in the process before you vote, because what happens is people, let me go back up one, people are going to be looking at balancing their values and their cost savings. You know, if the cost goes up and the services go up, well, that's up to them. Is it worth paying more money for a service? If costs go down but services go up, well, that's a no-brainer. Everyone wants to save money and get better services. Well, now in this concept of cost, if the cost is neutral, but I get better services, well, that's pretty much a win-win too. But if my costs go down and my services are still the same, well, that's a win. But if it's going to cost me more and my services go down, that's a lose. But how do you do that? How do you understand that? How do you vote on that without having any information? What happens then is you have 60 to 90 days of people on both sides of the issue giving their opinion. Some people will do numbers. Some people look at your budget. They'll say, you can save this, you can save that. And people are going to say, I get this tax credit, and you may save money. You may get a tax credit. You may have services, but until you, the village and town, truly understand what services shift from the village line to the town line, you're not going to be able to provide an answer to people. So that goes back to the first question. All you have to do is call the meeting, have the referendum, but our clients have chosen, every single one of them, to work with the public and work with each other to have a plan to give people some information. And it's an interim study. It's not the be all end all. It is not the 180-day study. It's the beginning, but it gives you some information.
Hey Ben, just quick question for the audience as well. How many of these town village mergers, consolidations, dissolutions, how many of these types of things have you worked on personally?
About 10 of them already. So we've worked with some of the smallest communities in the state, Village of Spencer right now, a couple hundred people, to the largest village that's dissolved in the state, which is Mastic Beach.
How big
so
is
the
that?
Village of Mastic Beach is 15,000 people that dissolved. Mm-hmm. And that was a unique situation. The village was only created 6 years prior to dissolving, because New York State does not require there to be a plan to create a village. You need 500 people and you have a vote. So they had a group of people that felt that they had better have served as a village, and they sold the public that, hey, what we pay the town, we can keep ourselves or run a village on. And they've created a village. Unfortunately, there was no plan of action that says, this is how my government will be run. This is what the tax implication is going to be. This is how your services will be provided. So all of a sudden now they have a new village, and they're kind of going aimlessly to create and provide services, and 6 years later dissolve. So in New York State, though, you were required to have a plan to divorce or to dissolve, to consolidate, but you don't have to have a plan to create a new village. So I do have a slide on my screen. I'll go back to my screen again, answer a question that somebody else had earlier I think it may have been Scott from my staff. He asked, how many villages have dissolved? Well, prior to 2010, you have all those villages in white going back from 1900 to 2009 that dissolved during the previous way of reorganization and dissolution. In 2010, with the law change, the ones in yellow have dissolved. Of the ones on the right-hand side, we did Van Etten, Mastic Beach, Port Henry, Macedon, and Salem. So in the last 7 years, in the last 4 years, we've done the majority of them. We've also had some villages vote not to dissolve. The village of Bloomingburg in Sullivan County voted not to dissolve. I'm not going to handicap Spencer. It's just odd that the village residents would pay more, so they'll see what they do. Village of Mastic Beach, it was a unique situation where when we did their analysis, we came up with 3 different options. One was to dissolve the village, one was to keep the village, and one was to keep the village and properly actually fund the village. If they were to fund their village the same way as the other villages in their town, there would have been almost a 400% increase in taxes because they didn't charge enough. There were a couple $100 a year in taxes is not enough to run a village on Long Island. So we gave them, and they chose to rejoin the town, and it was a huge success. Huge success. Town came in right away, and they stayed out of the process. You know, in a dissolution, the negative is town has the hands out. It's not my problem yet. I don't want to, persuade anybody. You do your election. You do your plan. If you vote to dissolve, then we'll help you and figure out how to do this. They came in and they cleaned up the streets. They did the code enforcement. They did the potholes. They did the houses. They did a great job. Town of Brookhaven is top notch. I mean, they're a 496,000 person town, 1,500 employees. They did a top notch process providing the services to the former village residents. There's all things that have to go through. And I gave you, Supervisor, I think you shared it with the rest of your town board, a couple of links to my project websites, which have all this information. It's labergegroup.com/Mastic Beach or Spencer, and you can go to documents. You can see what an interim plan looks like. You can see what an initial PowerPoint looks like. You can see what petitions look like. You can get state information and links to their information. And if we were chosen to work with you, you would have a website too. It'll be up within a couple of days. It'll be labergegroup.com/Pauling, and all the information about the process will be there. The initial PowerPoint will be there. The petition will be there. And it'll be open and linkable to your websites. So if that's the way you wanted to go, that's available to you, and it starts right away.
Ben, I think one thing we could all agree on here is, part of being on these boards is it's our job to be fiscally responsible, and that's why we're always making, the tough decisions here and making changes and, outsourcing departments where we need to be, and we've made a lot of great changes in the last few years. But one thing we agree on as a board for sure is if you're going to take on something like this, you got to follow the proper procedures, and the proper procedures would have been, for us in the village board to have been able to involve you folks earlier and have this study to show the community where there could potentially be savings and where there wouldn't be savings. Because right now, like you said, everyone's acting on opinion, and quite frankly, nobody has any idea what they're going to be voting for when this hits the ballot, because there's not one piece of research that's been done. There's nothing that can be put in front of anyone to show if there potentially any savings at all. Potentially taxes could go up from this. I mean, who knows? For this grant to not even be available, like you said, 2019, and then COVID hits and the fiscal crisis that's created in a bunch of state. Who really knows when and if that grant's ever coming back? Because New York State, as I know it, is really struggling with money right now. So how do we know what grants they're going to fund and what grants they're not going to fund moving forward?
We don't know that. And in fact, the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application, has not been released. They haven't, and it's widely held and understanding that they may not be released this year given the financial strains we're in. But what's interesting, Supervisor, is that the town board, understanding that there's opportunities for sharing services, at least to review it, could have applied in a normal year, non-COVID, July 31st, you would have made an application to do the study, and that would have been a 50-50 process. You would have applied for a grant. You would have been eligible for $25,000. You would have then worked with the village for the other $25,000. You would have done this entire process, but that would have been a government reorganization and shared services study. You would have had then a year. You would have won in December. You would then have a year to do this analysis and go back to the public. But unfortunately, you were shortchanged in that opportunity, and now you're forced into a process of a very, very tight time frame.
Well, I tell you, I don't want to keep, I know I got to go to Councilman McCarthy and then Councilman DeRosa. I'm coming to you next also, see if you have any questions for Ben. But Ben, I got to tell you, I really appreciate you getting on here with us. And I look forward to communicating with you and the village board and my board in the next few weeks. And we'll get this meeting set for the end of August, and we'll get it out to the community so that everybody knows where we're going to have it. We'll try our best to have it in a location where we can have a lot of people in attendance and make it easy for people to ask questions. And we're going to try and get as many answers as we possibly can for everybody before the end of August. So before any more waiting, Councilman McCarthy, do you have anything for Ben?
No, I just want to thank Ben for clearing up a lot of questions I think we all had, and the public. And I'm sure we all will have more questions towards the end of the month. So
sure.
Thank you, Ben.
And towards the end of the month, what I would do is a full presentation, but I won't have the numbers yet. That's just what the process is and how to go forth. And I'll answer questions to the public too. You know, in a non-COVID year, we would do that in the school and have a big 2-hour presentation and discussion. And I'd just be sitting there with a couple bottles of water answering questions for a few hours. So it may be a little different via Zoom, but we'll make sure that I answer as many questions as I can. And quite frankly, should you want to move forward in that process, you can also create an email address, consolidation@polling.org or something, and people can email questions prior to that meeting, and I can address them that way too.
Great idea. That's a really great idea. Okay, Councilman DeRosa, do you have anything for Ben?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One, I want to thank you for all your information, along with the rest of the board members. It's really been informative. I just want to be clear on a couple of things you said. One is it's the county that's regulations that made this petition miss the November 3rd general election date. It's the county's rules. It's not the town board, or it wasn't the clerk's failure to do her job properly or her office. It was because it wasn't submitted in the right time for the county's rules. Am I correct?
And I'm not. It's sort of. I'm not sure if it's the county or the state, but it's definitely not the town and village. I'm not sure if it's the state board. I'm not sure if the state board of elections political calendar had that deadline, but York County and Rensselaer County had the same exact answer because I'm doing a district there. So I'm going to probably say it's definitely the county or the state. Is absolutely unequivocally not the town of Pauling and the village of Pauling, and it's not the town clerk. It's not the village clerk. The county has said, the board of elections said that you would have had to have it to them by the August 1st or August 2nd. I think August 2nd was a Monday.
Thank you. I just wanted to be absolutely clear on that because, again, the public isn't getting the full information. And I know both the town and the village did their due diligence in trying to produce this in the right time frame. And again, thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Ben. I think that's all we have for you now. Like I said, I know there'll be a lot of dialogue back and forth with us as there has been already. Nancy, do you have anything for Ben?
Nothing but admiration for a great presentation. Thank you. We all learned a lot.
Thank you. And I'll forward this to you all tomorrow. Let me finalize a few numbers in there. I mean, I did it today real quick, so 98% of it's there. But I want to talk to Kathy. I'll make sure I have the right numbers of petitions that were signed and the right dates in there, and then I'll share it with you. This will be if we're working with you, this is basically the presentation that we'll give in August. So you'll have some information to review and understand. In the meantime, you can go to one of those two websites and download those. I shared with you the bumps, bruises, and the pitfalls article and PowerPoint. If you don't have that, I can share that again. I know the word share is out there like shared surfaces, but I can provide that again so you can have it.
Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate your time. I know the board does, and I'm sure the 8,500 residents of the town and village of Pauling definitely appreciate this last 59 minutes of your time. And this is a short one because I think the end of August they're going to probably have you here for a few hours, and I'm okay with that because I want all of our residents to really be informed. And I like your idea of developing that email address. I think that's something we'll work on, and we'll start trying to gather as many questions from folks as they need. And we want to get, like I said, we want everyone to when they go vote, it's your right to vote however you like, but we like them to have the proper information or the necessary information before they cast that vote. Because right now, you're going in blind.
So what we would do if we're working with you and we create that website, I would create a FAQ page off of that website. And as the questions come in, and we'd vet them. If they're the same question, I'm not going to put it up there 10 times. I just put up there with the answer. And what my staff is, myself, it's Scott Siegel, who's a former village and town trustee or town board member and village trustee. Kathy Rooney, a former county manager. And I also have, as part of our team, a former town supervisor and a former village mayor that are available to work on these kind of processes. So they've been on your side of the table. And we've done this numerous occasions. I'll answer the questions as they come up. You know, I'm not going to have information yet until you do the study on the tax implication, but procedures and processes, if you have that consolidation at pauling.org or wherever your email address is, you'll be able to begin getting that information up there and answering them through the process, because questions have to be answered, misinformation. And I don't believe anybody is spewing misinformation on purpose. I believe that everyone's doing their research and understanding it and putting forth how they see it. But unfortunately, information does go through filters. How you hear it is not always how you present it back. So I'm just giving you unbiased information from my years of doing this. And I'll be continuing to do that on an FAQ process.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much again. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to working more with you. And right in the immediate future, we're going to try and get the village involved in some of these conversations, and we'll be well prepared for the end of August for all the residents from Pauling. Hopefully we can, at that meeting, we can get them everything it is that they're looking for.
I hope so. Well, good luck to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your evenings.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was informative, right? I mean, a lot of questions out there. I know I've been getting them from people. I've been walking around the village and engaging people and business owners and people around town, and a lot of the same questions we've all been getting, and Ben really hit them all right on the head for folks. So now, at least now the information is out there. People can come back to our page. They can watch the meeting over and over again, and they can see what it is, some of the facts are regarding this. And I think by the end of August, hopefully we'll be able to get enough of stuff out there where everyone will be happy in making their decision, knowing what they know at that point in time. All right, so moving right along, approval of minutes, July 8th, 2020. I'll make a motion for that. Could I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilman DeRosa,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Approval of minutes passes. Okay, resolutions. So I'll read them all I'll read them all first, and we'll vote on them one at a time.
Well, one comment before you read that, Supervisor. We have no comment from the public on any of the agenda items, and I just think we should allow that before we have the resolutions, so we can hear if anybody objects to them until we vote on them.
Yeah, so I know in the past we started doing that, Councilman DeRosa, and that is the procedure we are going to go back to. Tonight was just a little more confusing because we were going right into a public hearing, and then I'm not sure. I know you were just dialing in at that time, but the public hearing we were having issues with. We couldn't tell if people were trying to talk, if they were in the waiting room or not. So that's why we had that issue. So we're going to run through the resolutions, then we're going to open up the public comment at the end.
Well, again, I just feel as a councilman we should hear from the public before we vote on resolutions, not after. I'm just voicing my opinion.
I understand. So resolution 110, payment of bills for the town of Pauling. Whereas the town of Pauling bookkeeper has reviewed and prepared the vouchers and has offered them for review. Whereas the vouchers have been approved in accordance with the town of public policy. Whereas the vouchers have been numbered 637 through 790, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Pauling Town Board hereby accepts the vouchers as prepared on the recommendation of the bookkeeper, and hereby authorizes the payment of said vouchers for the town of Pauling on this date for the amount of $748,225.52. I will make a motion for resolution 110. Can I get?
Second.
Second.
Do a roll call vote. Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman DeRosa,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Resolution 111, award of bid for heating fuel oil and service of oil-fired heating equipment. Whereas bids were duly advertised and noticed for the number 2 heating fuel oil and service boiler maintenance service for the year 2020-2021. Whereas the bids have been submitted for the town board's review and the tabulations have been provided by the town clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that the following bids for number 2 fuel oil be awarded per the specifications within the bid packet to Taylor Oil in the amount of plus 59 cents per gallon, and for the boiler maintenance service bid is hereby awarded to Taylor Oil in the amount of $92 per hour. I'll make a motion for resolution 111.
James, sorry, that's
Second
0.059
question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong.
Yes.
059.
above
Yeah,
wrap.
it's just under 6 cents.
Yeah, I ran through that too quick. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you. And it's in there as well, and the resolution will be posted online for everybody.
Correct.
So I'll make the motion for resolution 111. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second?
I'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman DeRosa,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Resolution 111 passes. Resolution 112, adoption of constable manual. Whereas the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, DCJS, requires every municipality to adopt an internal policies and procedures governing the constables. Whereas these policies and procedures are contained in the Town of Paulding Police Constable Manual attached hereto, and whereas the Town of Paulding Police Constable Manual has been thoroughly reviewed by the town attorney and the chief constable, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Paulding Town Board hereby approves and adopts the Town of Paulding Police Constable Manual by official policy of the Town of Paulding. I'll make a motion for resolution 112. Can I get a second?
Second?
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilman DeRosa,
Aye. It's just a shame that we have to do this thing in our small town, but it's a safety issue and something that we need to have to protect our. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
thank you, Phil. Thank you, Councilman DeRosa. Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Resolution 112 passes. Resolution 113, approval of waiver for transfer station permits. Whereas the Town of Paulding has established new rules. What's that?
James, I just want to make sure that this gentleman is not requesting a waiver for commercial use. He's requesting a waiver to not pay.
Correct. He's asking not to get a transfer sticker at no charge.
Correct.
Waiver of a transfer station permit. Okay, so I'll read the resolution into, well, want me to read the resolution into here, then we can have discussion? Approval of waiver for transfer station permit, whereas the Town of Paulding has established new rules for the 2020 operation and use of the Paulding transfer station, and whereas the recipients of a waiver are only permitted to dump household waste at the transfer station, therefore be it resolved that the following individuals are hereby approved for a waiver to obtain a 2020 transfer station permit by the Town Board of the Town of Paulding. Robert George. Now, Councilman Johnson, did you have something for discussion here?
I will second for discussion. This gentleman claims he has 2 bags of garbage a month and can't afford to pay for a transfer station sticker. Now, I will also go on to say we have never, ever waived the cost, correct, Kathy, for a transfer station sticker?
Never.
And I would also say that I don't think this is something we want to start doing, because where does it end?
Correct.
Correct.
Just to continue the discussion, this is the first year I haven't had a transfer station permit in many, many years because I have 2 or 3 bags of garbage and I end up bringing them up to Wingdale now. But that's my choice. And then he has an option. He can do that also. I don't think we should waive the transfer fees either for a couple of bags until we go to a bag system.
Is there anyone else for discussion?
I mean, I agree with what's been said already, James. I mean, I think that, you know, if that was something that was ever going to be decided by this board future-wise, and that it was, you know, something that other people could, because of financial reasons or whatever, do filling out some kind of form, I do think it needs to be more of a discussion. I think we can't just do it, unfortunately, for one person and not all people.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and with what's being said right now. Councilman Johnson, have you ever had dealt with this before? For someone coming in to get a waiver on a transfer station, almost 20 years of you being on the board?
No, we finally caught all the people that weren't paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only taken us like 6-7 years.
Right. Sure. No, I understand. So
Can I ask a question though? Because this resolution is not correct, and to avoid confusion, maybe we shouldn't do it with this resolution and maybe a motion should be made?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to table this resolution.
I'll make a motion to amend resolution 113 to say that it should read a request for waiver of cost of transfer station permit.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion. We'll do
on the motion. Yeah.
We need to
vote on the
amendment. Yep.
So we'll vote on the amendment first. So Councilwoman Snow on the amendment.
On the amendment, yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman McCarthy.
Yes.
Councilman DeRosa.
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt. Aye. And now we're going to go back to the resolution, right? So I get a little, so back to the resolution, then we have to, and we're going to vote on this now.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Did we have a second already on this?
I'm not, Billy seconded it, but I wasn't sure who initiated the motion.
James.
Okay, then we're good.
All right, so we got to do a roll call vote on the original resolution of 113.
The amended resolution, right?
On the amended resolution.
Yeah, well, we just voted on the amended resolution.
You just voted on the amendment, not the resolution.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry. So now we'll go for a roll call on the amended resolution.
Right.
And just for the record, Councilman Johnson, could you restate the amended resolution again for us?
The amended resolution says that it's an approval for the waiver of cost of the transfer station permit. So if you wish to deny it, you would vote no.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilman DeRosa.
No.
Councilman McCarthy.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
No.
Councilwoman Snow.
No.
Supervisor Schmidt is also no. Resolution 113 on the amended one does not pass. Resolution 114. Acceptance of street name Liberty Lane. Whereas a new road name has been proposed for the Lawrence Oates subdivision in the town of Pauling, and whereas a said subdivision will be found on parcel numbers 6855-04-911488, 6855-04-964490, and 6855-04-978457. Excuse me. And whereas the proposed road name is Liberty Lane, whereas Dutchess County Real Property Tax Services have reviewed the proposal and has found no conflict, therefore be it resolved that the town Pauling Board hereby approves the road name Liberty Lane found on parcel numbers 6855-04-911488, 6855-04-978457, 964490 and 6855-04-978457. I will make that motion for resolution 114. And could I have a second?
Second.
I will do a roll call vote. Councilman DeRosa,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt. Aye. Resolution 114 passes. Resolution 115, standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials, RS 2417-A. Be it resolved that the town of Pauling 30350 hereby establishes the following standard workdays for these titles and will report the officials to the New York State and local retirement system based on their record of activities. I will make a motion for resolution 115.
Second?
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start Councilman DeRosa.
But being this is really about me, should I abstain from this? It's about reporting our retirement incomes, even though I retired.
I think you can vote on it, Phil.
Okay. Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt. Aye. Resolution 115 passes.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. That's the end of it. Okay. I was about to get into the constable's manual. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Moving on to discussion amongst the town board members. We can let's start with the highway department generator, I guess, and then we'll have some. Then we'll jump into the discussion amongst all of us. Councilman McCarthy, do you mind heading up the discussion in regards about the highway department generator?
Correct. I just want to clarify that this generator is for the transfer station and it is to run the compactor. Unfortunately, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had 3 days without power at the transfer station. It makes their jobs very difficult. So this generator would be for the compactor. I know the world we live in when it comes to grants. I did talk to Scott. The open grant that we currently have now for the roll-off and the few boxes that is in the process, this could be added to that. It might be added to it, or we may have to file another one, but we could possibly somewhere in the next 4 years, if things get better, get reimbursed for a percentage of this generator. I'd have to talk to Jay and find out what percent this generator would use for recycling. It's the DEC recycling grant. So there is potential that we could get some of the money back. We have one confirmed bid of around $14,000. We have 3 other bids out. We're hoping to get them back to Jay before tonight's meeting, but because of the storm, all 3 of them have been out for the last week, taking care of generators. So that's where we are right now.
So this is, Jim, this is a highway department generator you're speaking of, or the transfer station generator?
No, this generator is only for the transfer station. The highway department has a generator that, Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think John got it a few years ago.
Yes.
And it's there, it just needs to be hooked up, and that's a different issue that Jay will address next month.
Okay.
So this strictly is only for the transfer station.
Gotcha.
That $14,000 cost, that is the total cost of hooking up the system, is it?
That is the total cost unless the propane company charges us to hook up to it. But that is wired. That is a 200 amp transfer, automatic transfer, and a 25,000 kW generator.
And I think he has 10,000 left in the budget for that transfer station, and plus there's money left in our capital fund that we have put aside from the $40 from every sticker also, don't we?
That's correct. I did confirm that with Christine yesterday. The $10,000 for equipment is still in the transfer station budget, and it has not been touched.
Excellent.
And we have the balance in that other fund that's attributed to the transfer station for equipment.
Right.
Correct. And we're hoping that maybe the other three will be less than that. We know that's the highest we have right now, and it so we're hoping that the other three will be less.
And when do you think, Councilman McCarthy, when do you expect those other bids to be in?
One we're hoping to have by Friday, and the other two sometime next week.
Excellent.
So I don't know if we can vote on it tonight to not exceed $14,000 and move forward with this, or whatever the board wants to do.
Well,
I think we can make a motion to let the supervisor and the highway superintendent get the lowest bid or the correct bid from the three once they're submitted.
Well, depending on the timeline, Councilman McCarthy, by the time you get these bids in, we might be closing in on the next meeting anyways. Is there that much of a crunch in time to get this done?
James, I'm not sure. Like I said, we should have them hopefully by the end of this week or the first part of next week. So
right.
Here's the other issue. If you order a generator today, you're 30 to 60 days before it comes in anyway.
Yeah, right.
I personally would like to see, the proposals. I'm absolutely in favor, but I would like to see it. I'd like to see their calculations for the size that they selected, only
Right.
because I've run into issues with the big generator project at the water district in Holmes. And I would just like to get that reviewed potentially by our engineer, to have someone look at it to make sure that it is properly sized and not just take the word of a generator company.
You know, and we probably shouldn't approve anything tonight as well, because it actually taints the bid process. If any of the other potential companies who are bidding or watching the meeting, then they already know where the one bid has fallen actually. So we should just wait till these bids come in and then handle it that way. And if it's a crunch time decision, we could just have a special meeting to approve, to open the bids and approve it that way.
I think that's fine, James. I think, like you said, we're going to have two meetings back in September, so we should be fine.
Yeah, let's get as many bids in as we can, and then I'm sure there's a shortage of generators right now because everybody's been buying them because everyone was out of power. But yeah, let's get as many bids in as we can, and we'll discuss the numbers as we open them, and this way there's no competitive edges to anybody else as far as the bid process goes. All right, thank you, Councilman. So we got a discussion amongst the board, and I'll start with Councilwoman Snow. Do you have anything for discussion?
I do. I have just a couple of updates, basically, if that's okay.
All right. Let's hear it.
Okay. So the different areas, as the community knows, we're all assigned liaisons to different agencies and or community groups. So starting with the polling schools, just to let the community know if they haven't already, Kim Fontana and her administrators were on Polling Public Radio this past week. It's recorded just like our meetings are, so you can go on it. Parents were able to ask questions, and that was the first of 3 forums. They'll be having another one next week, and then another one, I believe the week after. So I do think that that's really going to be helpful information for any of the parents in the community regarding the polling schools and what opening may look like. Secondly, just with the polling rec, I did notice that they're going to be trying to do some voting event this weekend. It sounds like they're really trying to do so many things for the community, amidst COVID. So again, thanking Jessica, and I'm glad we're just, offering things for the community members, families, and kids during this time of COVID. The polling resource center, Terry did give me a call asking us if we don't forget them. Their stairs that were crumbling are now, they can't be used at all. So she had to tape them, And she is hoping, she understands we're in, you know, a pandemic now, but that the work on, oh gosh, what were they going to, on the ramp, I'm sorry. The work on the ramp, that, you know, will not be forgotten, and that we'll get back in the swing of that because they're in desperate need of a way to get in. So things are kind of pretty bad there with their steps. And I said I would bring it up tonight, and that, you know, I'm sure that'll be something we can look at again, hopefully in the near future for them. And then lastly, the Polling Community Foundation, they have put up a website, and that is pollingfoundation.org. So that can give the community all of their information. Unfortunately, they did let me know that they had to cancel their gala in November. I think they were hoping they could do it, but they're just not able to really plan for that, you know, not knowing how many people we're allowed to have with the pandemic. But on that website, if people would like to donate, there is a way to donate to help them out. And then lastly, Bill and I have been in contact, and Bill, I'll let you speak more on that, again, with Gabrielle Semmel, and we were talking with George Apap, and we had a meeting with Jessica Dickinson too, just to look around for the community garden. So there's been some discussion, and I think we'll be able to talk more about how we can kind of look at the exact site in our September meeting. So those are my comments regarding the liaison things. And I guess just to have a minute, you know, during my time, I would just like to just say again, especially after the great presentation tonight from Ben, that, you know, social media can be a good thing and it can be a really bad thing. And that going forward, I would just hope that our community members, if you have questions, to please email our board, email the supervisor, email the board. You know, we're happy to answer your questions, but I do think, and we've seen that tonight, sometimes things do get interpreted, and they're not quite exactly the right way. And all I can say is that some of the back and forth that I saw on Facebook this past week was just such division for our community. And we're really trying to help bring people together desperately. And I think we all need that feeling of being brought together and not divided. So I just felt I needed to say that. So thank you.
I agree with you, Colleen, and thank you very much. And before I go to the next council member, the Resource Center, too, when you brought it up, I think we have to give a shout out to Sean Bucks, who brought over the generator during the power outages. The Resource Center had reached out, and you know, power wasn't coming back, and we obviously weren't getting the amount of dry ice that our community required from the utility company. And Sean had messaged me, and I got a hold of Colleen, and he got over there that night. And I know it wasn't able to power all the refrigerators and whatnot, but he was able to power several of them with his generator for the Resource Center. So, Sean, I just want to say thanks a lot. You always seem to step up when the community needs you, and I know the Resource Center, they appreciate it, and we appreciate it for sure.
Thank you
very much. Councilman Johnson, do you have anything for us?
Yes. I'll pick up where Colleen left off with the community garden. First of all, very excited to keep this project moving forward. I heard from Wendell today that the RFP for the asbestos abatement is done, and Kathy, he should be dropping it off for you to get it distributed to the appropriate places. Perfect. I know that they went over there and they were kind of looking at other sites, and I'm really trying to keep us working with PCF and their layout. They've got shovel-ready projects in certain areas. And I think their concern is in the soil. So I think what we may have to do is, once that house is abated and it's demolished and things are cleaned up, obviously we want to get it all checked and make sure that that's good. And I think it'll wind up being a very successful project. Yeah. Also, recreation. As you all know, my wife Lori is president of the Rotary, and they've come up with a great idea for the kids and parents to do a movie night up at the park. Now, people can say, well, how can you have kids inside and watch a movie? Well, you're not. You're going to be outside in the Great Lawn in designated areas, watching on an inflatable 25-foot screen that I would like to make a resolution asking the town board to accept a donation from my wife, Lori, and I, giving that screen to the community to use at that event and any other future events that they deem necessary. So I would need a second to that resolution.
I'll second that. And then I'll do a roll call vote, and that's I'll second it for discussion. That's very, very generous, and I think that's great considering the year we've all had. I think people probably can't wait to sit outside and socially distance and watch a movie. It sounds like a wonderful idea. So I'll do a roll call vote now. Councilman DeRosa.
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow.
Aye, and thank you.
And Supervisor Schmidt. Aye. That resolution passes for the movie screen. Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Do you have anything else?
No, that's all I have. I hope everyone in town is finally back up with electric. This has been very trying times, and I can tell you that my wife finally said, let's get a whole house generator, because 60, 70 gallons of gasoline and switching from this refrigerator to the well pump, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. And this time we had communications down as well. So people not only had lost power, they lost the ability to make a phone call and get on the internet. And we had a lot of calls with utility companies, our state senator, our county executive, and we're going to be reaching out to the Public Service Commission in regards to how we think the response the lack thereof the response, I should say. And it's not to the men and women who are out here doing the work. The utility workers, we can't thank them enough for being out here and doing that. But the leadership of the people that are supposed to, get them here just didn't seem to get that in a timely fashion. So I know a lot of other communities are upset as well. Parts of Danbury are just getting power back today, and other places still don't have it. It's just
one of our dealerships got it just last night. I mean, that's on a main thoroughfare.
Right.
But I do know that Senator Harcum is working on a proposal for a bill to require generators at cell towers, so that at least you have your phone and you can use it for data and other things.
I thought those cell towers had battery backups. So aren't they supposed to have battery backups at the cell towers already?
I don't know, but they certainly aren't going to last 6 days.
Sure. You'd think the easiest thing with a battery backup on a cell tower would be to have a small solar panel that it self-charges during the day, and then it charges enough to run at night. But I'm not a utility engineer. I'm just taking a couple of shots at it. But thank you, Councilman Johnson. Councilman McCarthy.
No, I don't really have too much, James, other than the reason why I'm in the dark is I have one wire to my modem because we just got a temporary line from Comcast. So I apologize. We're still waiting for the TV and the phone, but at least I got the internet for tonight. Other than that, I do want to thank everybody, the town employees, the highway employees, the fire department. I know your brother and I were out that night till late at night, just opening Quaker Hill. It was the first time that Fran and I were actually stuck at Station 3 for an hour and a half where we couldn't move. We couldn't go down the hill. We couldn't go up the hill. We could do nothing. I've never seen it that way. So I just want to thank everybody for their help and all the residents for their patience.
Thank you, Councilman McCarthy. Councilman DeRosa, I am sure you have a bunch, so we're coming to you next.
Yeah, okay. I want to echo Jimbo's comments there about thanking everybody, all the emergency workers and everything. We got through this thing, most of it. A couple of issues, yes. One, on the ASPCA building site there, development site, they're at the process in the planning stage that the town board has to talk about with our attorneys about maybe a pilot in lieu of taxes, because they're a nonprofit organization and they don't pay any taxes. And it's a lot like we did with the Castagna group on the apartments over there. They we proved that there were services we had to offer them, and we negotiated a pilot with them in lieu of taxes, because we will have to give them fire protection and ambulance protection and probably on the roads, work on the roads and stuff. And I just think it's time we have to open that up, discussion with our town board, the planning board, and the attorney. Also, on the dam, I was down there during the hurricane, and we gained about 2 inches of water. It was just going over the wood spillway when we checked it on the following day. So we're pretty good with the hurricane there. The other issue is we haven't received the permit extension for the work that needs to be done on the dam this fall, and I'm getting concerned. And I think we have to start preparing a letter to put out to the residents, because we need to lower the lake over 12 inches. I believe it's 12 inches in the report, but I'm not sure if they're taking into effect the 8 inches of wood that we put on top of the concrete spillway. And we have to have that completed by October 15th by the DEC rules, because we can't allow water to go down that stream because the critters down there start to hibernate. So I think we have to let the residents know when we're going to start this process, and I think we should start it around September 15th to start lowering the lake to give them a chance to take their boats out if they want to. The lake will still be able to be used, but it is just going to be lower until this construction process is completed, which should be a short time once we get it going, hopefully. So I believe before the next meeting, we should have that letter prepared and get ready to send out to the to the residents, because that'll be in September already. So that's an issue that needs to be worked on. The other thing, thank you, Billy, and your wife for the screening for the movies. I just have one thing. The homes residents, we don't see that all this stuff is going on unless you're on the internet and everything. There's no community board and signs, and the sign at the homes firehouse there has the latest one that the town issues talks about signing up for camp on the 15th of January that starts. So I think that items like that should be listed on that home's sign so that we can all participate in the events up there at the park. The other issue I have, I'd like to make a motion. I'm glad to hear that we got the RFP for the asbestos on the Burr House, but I'd like to make a motion to prepare an RFP for the asbestos in the town hall in the basement. Let's do the proper testing that needs to be done to identify the asbestos down there, and let's remove it. Now that we got most of the stuff moved out of that big room, there's still quite a bit of stuff in there, and there's different organizations like the historical district and stuff has information in there. We should clean up that information in that big room so it could be tested properly and the asbestos removed. So I'd like to prepare a motion to right now offer a motion to prepare an RFP for that task.
So it's just so I understand, a motion to determine how much asbestos. Do we have a report done on the basement field as to how much asbestos?
Not on the whole thing, because they couldn't do the proper testing in the whole area. That's why I would like to get the basement area tested to identify any asbestos that's down there, and also a RFP to remove it once that's done.
Okay.
Because I've been trying to get this cleaned up down there for almost 8 years, and now that we're moving people out of there, let's get it cleaned up. So if we have to renovate it and do things like that, the asbestos has to be removed before that.
Okay, so are you making that motion right now?
Yes.
All right, I'll second that motion. I know it seems like in the 3 years I've been here, every year we seem to do a little bit of work down in that basement, and every year it's a little bit of work, a little bit of work. So maybe it's time to do the research and have it looked at by some professionals and see exactly, determine how much asbestos is down there and what it's going to take to mediate it and make it safe. It is a good workspace and it could be usable for us. So I'm happy to second that motion as well. And I'll go around the table here. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Snow,
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy,
All right.
Councilman DeRosa,
Aye, and thank you.
and Supervisor Schmidt, aye. Okay, anything else, Councilman DeRosa?
No, that's enough. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We have, I do have, Jessica, we have, I think, Mark Shipkin waiting to speak tonight. I think he's been holding on for a while, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and we're gonna patch Mark in for during public comment. Mark Shipkin, are you there?
It's connecting.
Hi, Mark Shipkin, can you hear us?
I hear you.
How are you, sir? Good evening, Mark. You're on for public comment. Go ahead and make your comment.
I am here. I just want to see if I can get on just one screen. I've got two screens. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that I'm very impressed with Ben's presentation. It was just what I needed to be able to make a more informed decision in terms of voting. And I feel once again, as I have with other issues, that it's so important. And I appreciate that the town is taking the time to maybe have an interim study before the vote to allow people to hear the facts about what's really going on. I think it's quite clear from Ben's presentation that there's quite a bit of confusion. And I found the same in discussing things with people. And I have appreciated local residents who have talked to me about this, but Ben really was so knowledgeable. It was a big help. And I think that it's up to us to all to look at the pros and cons before we vote on this funding. Residents need to be made aware of specifically what this vote is for, as Ben suggested tonight. It's a yes or no vote, not a research vote. And I believe that I am concerned that if this was to pass, how the town boards would find all the time to do the things that are necessary. From what Ben was talking about, it was overwhelming. I imagine you'll hire a consulting group like Laberge, but I think it's very important that the board let us know what kinds of things might be held up if this actually was to continue. And we know now that the grants may be held up, that we'd have to put the money out ahead of time. That's something new to me, and hope that the grants would be reimbursed later on. But as I said, all of us benefit from opening the light on this and to communicate in a respectful debate about what this mandate actually is going to be. And I would like to know if the town board can provide for us a list of what shared benefits they have right now in terms of the village and the town, and what you expect this consolidation would increase in terms of shared benefits, and an actual amount, a number amount or a relative estimate of tax benefits for the village and town residents if we go through with this. I mean, people are voting, I don't know what they're voting on. They're voting on the idea that it may lower taxes, but as you know from my past presentations, I like the facts. I like to know how much it's actually going to help us. You've answered most of the questions. As I said, I hope we look at both the positive and negative impacts of these actions. And I think it's really important. One thing that was not mentioned is that, to me, the village and town boards have different mindsets. Both care about our residents, but they're two different governments that specialize in two different natures of our community. The urban part is the village with their special skills. The board members have special skills to manage the infrastructure of the municipal water, sewage, the waste pickup, local businesses, while the town may focus more on transfer stations, the dam, or green spaces, the parks, the agricultural lands. Each government has its own comprehensive master plan and goals. And I want to know, would forcing the village and town into one board be helpful, or will it actually dilute their effectiveness? Now, today I called up Lake George, their town, which has a village, and they went through the same process. And I asked them, did you go ahead with it? And they said, no. We decided just to work on, after years of study, and doing the study that they decided to just have actually improved the services, the shared services, rather than make any changes in terms of consolidation. So all the concepts and questions that are raised here are worthy for exploration. I hope that the town board will have that meeting with the village, make it available to the community. And once again, I thank you again. And I thank Ben.
For those comments. Jess, I think Mr. Chipping was the only one in the waiting room. We have one email that did come in from Helen Grasso, which I'm going to read into the minutes as well right now. It was, Dear Supervisor Schmidt and Town Board, why is there a deadline at noon today to submit questions and comments to the Town Board before the 6 p.m. meeting tonight? Isn't the Facebook Live meeting meant to approximate a live meeting? I hope in the future you will consider letting residents submit right up to the time of the meeting or even during it. I believe the school board allows this sort of access. See down the agenda for tonight has an item discussing consolidation reorganization. My name is one of the 2 petitions submitted to the town and village roughly 10 days ago to initiate the process to consider consolidation of the town and village. There are 2 petitions submitted to the town and village with the required 10% of registered voters to put a referendum up for vote specifically to consider a conterminous consolidation of the town and village. That means a partial or complete consolidation of government services. Voters first a resolution that allows the village and town to apply for state funding to analyze and research the potential and cost savings for taxpayers. Then there is a second vote in 2021 if a suitable proposal has been created by an appointed review board. I have spoken to the regional representatives at the Shared Services Department of New York State. He says that sometimes this is an advantage and results in cost savings, and sometimes it doesn't. There have been many towns, mostly in Western and Northern New York, that have looked at this and or adopted the results. I understand also that the grant professionals now on salary with the town called Laberge Group have experience in this area in applying for the state grant to study this possibility. I hope we have a positive voter response and get the chance to initiate this process. I believe everyone is trying to do their best in this current climate and stress from the pandemic and recent outage that revealed critical vulnerabilities in our communications and infrastructure in Dutchess County. Please consider letting residents help with the fact finding and debate that might result in a positive proposal for all taxpayers and leadership in polling. There are many people who assisted with the collection of petition signatures and signed petitions who are actively interested in helping. To create a sort of advisory group to help with outreach and expand the interaction of polling residents, thank you, Helen Grasso. Helen, thank you for your email. I hope you were listening this evening. Ben answered pretty much all of these questions, I believe. So we're not going to get back into those. We are going to have that meeting. Like I said, it'll be very heavily posted and the community will be aware of it. We're going to shoot for the end of August. We're going to collaborate with the village mayor and his trustees, and we'll have a lot of conversations with our council and their council and Ben from the Laberge Group. And like I said, Ben has worked on a lot of these. They are one of the premier grant companies in New York State who work on these type of things. So he's very knowledgeable in this field. By the end of the month, I think everyone will be informed enough to make a conscious decision when they do vote, or when this does come to vote. We believe this meeting is going to have to be well attended and well informed, and that's why we're pushing it a couple of weeks away so we can get all the information we need. As a board, we'll continue to communicate with the residents and with the village, and we'll get out there to as many people as possible. And by the end of the month, we'll have enough information to hopefully answer everyone's questions. So with that, great meeting, everybody. Thank you so much. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I'll second that. A roll call vote. Councilman DeRosa? I think he's on mute.
Muted.
I think he's on mute, yes.
Yeah. Councilwoman Snow?
Aye.
Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilman McCarthy?
Aye.
Supervisor Schmidt? Aye. Councilman DeRosa is still on mute. So thank you all. Great meeting. And I will talk to you all in the morning.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.